Okay, we got a league match here between ditastrutt and ThinkLauren for J League. Joining me are Aglet and TeamOkay.
Hello.
Hello.
So this is actually a rematch of sorts. ditastrutt and ThinkLauren met in League 2 seasons ago, and it's actually one of the matches I recorded. And that was actually a 6-0 sweep for ThinkLauren, so I imagine ditastrutt's looking for revenge here. As it happened, they were neck and neck, I believe, at the time. They were like 3rd and 4th in their division. And then after that 6-0, ThinkLauren went on to win, and ditastrutt came in last. But then ThinkLauren demoted again next season, and they're back in the same division. So maybe we got a bit of a grudge
for a
match
reason.
here. All right. So anyways, this kingdom. The first thing that jumps out to me, at least, is it looks really money-ish because there's no trashing and there is Fool, which indirectly supports money strongly because Lucky Coin floods your deck with silvers.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense also with Sheepdog being the only draw. And that being kind of weak.
Yeah.
Unless I'm blind, there's no actions or action gainers. Yet, with that Foolish Sheep, yeah. I mean, the interesting thing with Sheepdog here is even when it's if you have a plus buy and you have Sheepdogs in your hand, you can play them after buying your first card as Way of the Sheep. So that in their worst case, they're barely worse than silvers.
Yeah, I like that interaction that DZ mentioned in the chat. Fool looks substantially better than usual with Way of the Sheep around, because it still has utility even after you've got Lost in the Woods. I also think Fool is definitely a better card in Money Kingdoms than in Engines. And so I would expect to get a Fool here. More of the boons are useful. For one, for example, Moon's Gift is usually entirely useless in Engines, but in a big money deck, you're not drawing your deck every time, so you'll often have stuff in the discard to choose from. Some of the other stuff like gaining a gold can be good. Also, just more generally, you're more likely to have junk cards in your hand that you're willing to discard to Lost in the Woods if you're playing money, because you have victory cards around.
Yeah, this looks definitely pretty money.
So now, as far as openings go, I think that ThinkLauren has the better opening draw here, seeing her Lucky Coin in the turn 1 hand, because it means she didn't do it. I was going to say, Lucky Coin in the turn 1 hand is really good because it means you can buy Night Watchman turn 2 to trigger a shuffle early and guarantee you see that Lucky Coin again turn 3. And like I was saying, it's the weak kingdom with big money being the main focus, and so playing Lucky Coin a bunch seems good to me. Often you want to play it sparingly or trash it, but here I just want to play it a bunch and get a bunch of silvers. And so an easy way to do that is if you had the Lucky Coin turn 1, you buy Night Watchman turn 2, and then that's going to reveal 5 cards out of 6. You'll have your 5 starting cards, or actually out of 7 here. 5 starting cards, plus a silver you gain, plus whatever you bought. And then you'd want to discard exactly 2 cards, because then that's going to create a clean, exactly 5 card shuffle, which will have your Lucky Coin in it. And then because it was 5 cards, you won't trigger a shuffle turn 3, so you get to play your Lucky Coin, and then it's going to go back into the shuffle a 3rd time already by turn 4. And then you're playing silver a bunch here. If you discard more than that, you'll trigger the shuffle prematurely, and the Lucky Coin gets stuck out of the shuffle.
Okay, I think another thing that happened since then was a potion got bought for Philosopher's Stone, which on almost every board's terrible, and here it probably still is, but not as much as usual. I mean, you're going to have high money density, but you're still not drawing barely anything. So it's not going to be as bad as it normally is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say good things about Philosopher's Stone, because it's just one of those cards you just never, ever, ever get. The only exception I find generally is with Keep around. Keep being the landmark that just makes every treasure worth 5 points. So then you get it not because it's any good, because it's worth 5 points. But it's less bad than usual here. I agree, because it's a weak kingdom and you're gonna have a thick deck. But Philosopher's Stone is still really bad. I wouldn't have gotten it.
At best, maybe it could even get to a silver if we're lucky there.
I don't know. I think Philosopher's Stone is going to consistently be worth at least 3 here. And like towards the end of the game, it's going to be worth a lot. Call me crazy, I don't hate it here, and I think if purely for the meme value, if for no other reason, I would have gotten it here.
All right, well, if you insist, you're crazy. I disagree with this. So think about it this way, right? You got to get a potion first, right? So let's roll this idea that Philosopher's Stone is consistently 3. If I get a potion and 1 Philosopher's Stone, that is on average in my deck a treasure worth 1.5 coins. Right? Because I got a treasure worth 0 and a treasure worth 3. And that's worse than just buying 2 silvers outright, and more expensive. And if I get 3 total cards, a potion and then 2 Philosopher's Stone, that's on average worth 2. So I'm already at the level of like, wow, it's as strong as a silver, which I could have just gotten directly. And just thinking about this, the game's not going to last super long. You have a thick deck. You're not progressing through your shuffles very fast. So you find the potion 1 shuffle, you buy a Philosopher's Stone, you buy a Philosopher's Stone. You're now in your like 5th shuffle. The game's already almost over. So for it to even surpass silver would require either a way to find that potion more often, or some reason for the game to drag out much longer than it's likely to.
At the same time, this kingdom, I guess Lucky Coin kind of helps with this, but towards the end of the game, you're going to have a hard time hitting 8, or at certain times, you might want to be hitting like 2 5s, or even 1 5 at sometimes is going to be harder towards the end of the game. Just finding Philosopher's Stone will help with that. I'm not saying it's good here. I'm just saying it's not so bad.
It's less bad than usual, but that's not a high bar to clear.
But if you can say
that it's got a positive spin at all to it, like you can say that it's a nice exercise in deck management, because it's worth the most when you can draw it at the right time. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that you can draw it at the right time, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, so something to notice here is they both got a bunch of workers' villages, and as was pointed out in the chat, they're not actually using Way of the Sheep. So, opening with a village is in general a really bad idea. Village is a good card when you have a bunch of actions in your deck. It lets you play all those actions. Villages tend to be very strong things you need a lot of. But villages is something that's almost never correct to open with, because there's just no way you have a bunch of actions in your deck yet. You don't need the plus action. And so it's just like a wasted card. You're throwing away a key early turn, and your deck's going to build slower. And you're getting a card that you want down the road when you should be getting a card that you want immediately. Now, a potential exception exists here, which is you've got Way of the Sheep, which allows you to, in the short term, for example, if you do the Workers' Village turn 3 with no other actions, which would be likely, you could play it as payload then. You could play the Workers' Village as plus 2 coins instead of its normal effect, and that would make it actually pretty fine to open with a village, with the idea of it's plus coin early when you want that, and then it becomes a real village down the road. They got the Workers' Village turn 2, and I saw that and didn't criticize it, because Way of the Sheep's around. But then they haven't actually played their Workers' Village as Way of the Sheep ever. If you just like Control F plays the Workers' Village, they're all just playing it normally, which suggests that it was in fact just a really bad buy. If your plan is just to play it normally, then it's not doing anything for you.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Maybe just miss the interaction, but yeah, otherwise, that would be a good way to be hitting the price points fast, because market generally good. DZ said something earlier about a relic over market. That would probably also be good. Do a bit of damage.
I do agree with relic over market in terms of strength.
I'm looking through it with Control F, and I don't think anything's been played with Way of the Sheep, so may just be not realizing exactly what it does. I'm not 100% sure.
They're rather sheepish about it.
Also sheepish about the sheepdogs.
Yeah.
Especially if 4 villages are gone, I want more than 2 sheepdogs to be gone.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to why they have villages and no sheepdogs. One would think that the village is to help them play more of the sheepdogs.
Yeah, I mean, taking a village is not worth more Duchess. It's not worth it to take a village for more Duchess plays, rather, or fortune teller plays. So really the only terminal I want to be spamming here is sheepdog. Is Sheep Duchess better than regular Duchess? I guess so. I think so.
Probably. So, Duchess is an incredibly weak card. Terminal Silver is, of course, weak because normal Silver exists. So why are you wasting an action on fake Silver when you could just play Silver without costing an action?
It's because you already have 4 villages.
Yeah, and well, then the effect could potentially benefit you, but it also benefits your opponent. And I think it's more likely to benefit your opponent sooner because you play Duchess at the end of your turn, and so that discard effect is going to help your opponent on their turn before it helps you on your next turn. So I think it marginally favors your opponent over you to play Duchess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not clear on this. I haven't.
Who is Weed Goku 419? I have no idea. What a mysterious pseudonym they have there.
Fortune Teller Duchess. If that was a thing, I mean, if there was Chameleon, maybe that's a thing.
I think it's like an anti-combo. You use Fortune Teller to attack them to put on a state on top, and then you play your Duchess and then to discard the attack.
And I thought the other way, you just play the Duchess first, and then you get the benefit. It doesn't.
I have the definitive test. Weed Goku 419. I need you to tell me whether you like apples more than oranges. Using that exact phrasing. Do you like apples more than oranges or oranges more than apples? They're suspiciously silent, I imagine, because they realized their identity would be revealed if they answered this.
But yeah, it would be nice to see a little Duchess Fortune Teller pin there. Not anywhere quite as effective as the Bureaucrat pin, but close enough.
The singular Philosopher's Stone that's in that deck? Like, you can't even say P-Stones plural, because it's turn 15 and they still only have one. Philosopher's Stone as a $5 treasure. Don't encourage it, please. Philosopher's Stone is like a $5 treasure or something would be like fine. The fact that you have to get a potion first is really bad in so many levels. The one thing I was suggesting earlier is it's reducing the density of your deck in terms of money, right? The potion is like a $0 treasure. So every Philosopher's Stone you get is sort of like counterweighted by the fact you also got a potion. But secondarily, it also makes it hard to commit consistently to a Philosopher's Stone strategy. Because it's Gardens-like in that you want to get a bunch of cards. But then if you get a bunch of cards, you're not finding your potion very often, which makes it hard to get many Philosopher's Stones in the deck. And so the second weakness of Philosopher's Stone is it's turn 16, you still got one of them, because you're not finding your potion very often in a thick deck. I mean, I like Night Watchman, but I like Night Watchman just to play my lucky coin, which feels like Philosopher's Stone, but better in every way. It's worth 1 instead of 0, like Potion, and it gives me silvers, which are perfectly fine for hitting 8.
But hey, there was a Duchess discard, so Philosopher's Stone is going to be worth quite a lot this turn.
This is actually one time where you probably you don't want to sheep your workers' village. Take that plus buy.
Yeah.
It's going to really help here.
All right.
That'd be what, a $5 Philosopher's Stone right there?
Could be more. I don't know how much in the discard.
With the relic. Oh, you want to?
So it was 5.
You want to play the lucky coin before the Philosopher's Stone there.
That's true. Get the silver into the discard to power up the lucky coin.
Yeah.
That's honestly something I probably wouldn't even have thought of.
Because
not like I ever played Philosopher's Stone. I have no experience on how to execute the Philosopher's Stone strategy.
No, that was last week's coaching session, actually, which was how to execute Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, God. The answer is just pretend it doesn't exist.
I would love to see a coaching session where just every player was required to get a Philosopher's Stone in every game.
I'm trying to remember times where I've acquired Philosopher's Stone other than just purely for the keep points. And I can only think of 2. One, the kingdom was so terrible, I tried to go for Philosopher's Stone because nothing else was good. And it was honestly worse than just buying pure golds and silvers and nothing else. It was so bad. And the other, there was like some situational combination with Hero where I gained a peace stone with Hero mid-turn, and it was really useful. I forget why.
I mean, bypassing the potion's got to help.
The fact that your best case scenarios, Halo Andy, have to be prefaced, or not prefaced, but appended onto with almost maybe says everything you know about Philosopher's Stone. It's like my ideal scenario Philosopher's Stone might almost maybe be a thing.
Didn't Xerix post a video recently of a good Philosopher's Stone combo?
I don't recall.
There was some video that may not have been recent as well. I don't know.
Is this from that kingdom where they like rigged a kingdom to make Philosopher's Stone Storyteller a thing?
Yeah, it was Philosopher's Stone Herbalist Storyteller Capitalism.
Oh god.
And then some other stuff maybe. But anyways, the point was that 5 Philosopher's Stones drew deck. It was very important.
So in ditastrutt's turn, I was hoping that they would play their Mystic first because the Duchess play revealed a silver, so they knew it was on top.
I am skeptical that the next expansion will buff peace stone. I'm sorry, DZ. Oh, this is a nice tie. 31-31 into game 1. I will point out that ditastrutt has now already scored more points than in the entire last match.
That's good for them.
So looking up for Dita.
Yeah. They're sitting at 10 wins and 14 losses in their division. Currently, well, now 10.5, 14.5.
And I believe ThinkLauren was at 5-7.
ThinkLauren was at 5-7 is now at 5.5, 7.5.
Yeah,
yes.
So going into this match, they were actually identical in terms of win percentages.
Yeah. I believe Dita needs to win all of the next 5 to have a chance at promoting. Yes. There's someone currently at 16-8. So and this division is actually fairly tight. No player.
What do you mean all the next 5? You mean like this entire match?
Like, yes, the next 5.
That doesn't sound right to me. So like imagine they won 0 of these, but then they 6-0'd someone else, and then the person at 16-8 just lost the rest of their matches.
Well, this is their last match.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. This division went fast. So,
I mean, if this is their last match, then they just can't promote.
They can promote at 15.5, 14.5. They can promote.
You just said the top player has 16?
Yeah, but it's a 2-promotion division.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
I think the 2 promoting divisions are J, I, G, and D, if I recall correctly.
I've never been in a 2-promotion division.
Way to flex.
Well, it's just the J and I divisions didn't exist when I started League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was like. I joined this season. J and I started to become a thing. A is, I guess.
Wait,
yeah.
So why did G, I, and J do it, but H doesn't?
Something about the number of people.
Sure.
Okay, I don't know too much about the structure.
On 5-2, hunting party. I think I want to open Band of Misfits on 5-2, just to get the Steward trashes in, but be better than Steward later.
Yeah, I like the idea of Band of Misfits on 5-2. Steward is obviously a thing you want to play early for the trashing effect. I think Hunting Party is also pretty reasonable. This is something I was actually skeptical of before and thought about. I remember seeing Tracer open Hunting Party nothing on a 5-2 with a Steward in a A-League match a while back. And just thinking about it, it actually works out pretty fine. If you see your Hunting Party turn 3, well, you buy a Steward, and at least you got a clean shuffle, so that's okay. And if you don't see your Hunting Party turn 3, you can buy the Steward turn 3, and then your Hunting Party will draw it for you turn 4.
Interesting.
And so the Hunting Party actually works out kind of fine for playing your Steward early. But I also like the Band of Misfits idea, just to get your steward directly. I think I would prefer that over the hunting party idea.
I don't like the Baron early.
I'm also not a big fan of Baron.
Baron's generally good for payload. And it's like, it's okay if you want to spike a high cost early. It's not the best thing, but it's not the worst.
I do agree with the advanced envoy play that Lapik was just discussing there. If you play your Baron, you have 2 buys. So you can both buy a 5 and advance your envoy into another 5. The 5 cost actions here are generally pretty darn strong. Whereas if you play the envoy, you can also afford a 5, but you've only got 1 buy, so you can't like equally advance the Baron into a 5.
Haglerson does seem good. They're good things at multiple price points, which is just Hagler's good case.
I don't like Dita's play so far here. It looks like they're just kind of mirroring what ThinkLauren has done. They're getting the Barons, and then... Actually, I don't even know why they got the Envoy. But Steward is like the key thing here early. I mean, you could trash with Goatherd as well, honestly, and that'd be fine. Not quite as good as Steward, because it only trashes 1, but it is non-terminal. But the key thing to do early is basically just you want to trash your cards. And so Steward and Goatherd are super important here.
Here you can definitely build very big. Hagler is going to help you gain payload.
I would think on 4-3, probably just Steward Ironmonger. But, Steward Goatherd could also be fine. You could even consider maybe Ironmonger Goatherd as player 2 if you saw your opponent open with some trashers. Like if I had 4-3 and I was player 2 and my opponent opened like Steward Goatherd or something, I think I might prefer Goatherd over Steward just because I know I'm very likely to draw a bunch with it.
Yeah, if my opponent's opening Hunting Party on 5-2, I don't want Goatherd. If they're opening Steward, it's more fathomable, more feasible.
So ThinkLauren gained a Steward turn 2 and still has yet to play it. That can't be right. Where did the Steward show up? Okay, so unfortunately they bottom decked their Steward, which is unfortunate and unlucky. But then they chose to play the Envoy instead of the Steward, which is definitely worse. Again, trashing super key.
And then they advanced the Steward.
So. Without ever No, take it back. Take it back. You need that. Steward is better than Rabble.
If you got your wish, there's now something in the trash.
The Steward did end up getting a card into the trash, but not the way we wanted.
Such is life. Now, here for Dita, you're going to want to buy a Steward. That's just what you want to do.
So last Kingdom there was no good way to trash, so you just kind of have to accept that your deck's going to be bloated with treasures and whatnot, and play accordingly.
And a Philosopher's Stone, of course.
This Kingdom has strong trashing. Steward and Goatherd are both good cards, so there's no reason these decks should be thicker than a bowl of oatmeal right now.
Yeah, Hunting Party. I mean, at this point. You still want Steward at this point. I was about to say at this point, you might be able to draw your deck, but looking at ThinkLauren, you're definitely not able to, and you're not able to do it with any consistency. So you definitely want to be trashing. I can see leaving 1 estate around for Baron.
Yeah, I agree. Leaving an estate, maybe even 2 estates is fine if you wanted to build up to 3 buys. I would leave 1 estate for Baron at the very least.
Yeah.
But I want to trash.
Certainly. Gold.
Uh-oh.
Gold is a fine buy here under one circumstance. That is you have multiple Haglers in play.
Yeah, obviously they don't have Haglers yet, so no excuses here. I'm not even sure that's true. I mean, before I'm provincing, I'm probably buying a 5 and gaining Ironmongers, and then by the time I'm hitting 8, I just buy province and gain the 5s. I'm not even sure gold comes up. But maybe there's some circumstantial situation where, just given the right sequence of draws, you've got Haglers in play, and you hit 6, and the Ironmongers are empty, and then maybe you buy a gold there.
I don't even know if the Ironmongers have to be empty. I can definitely see situations where I'd rather have gold Hunting Party Hagler than a 5 and 2 Ironmongers.
Also, I can't say this with certainty, but I did comment a whole match of ThinkLauren versus Ditastrutt a while back. I think this was 2 seasons ago in the summer. And it seems incredibly unlikely that I would have commented that entire match without ranting about how terrible Gold is at least once. So they should know. They should know by this point. If they watched that match or their match was commentated, they would realize Gold is not a good card. They should know better. Who bought the Gold? Was that Dita or ThinkLauren?
Both of them.
Dita, I want you to know I'm disappointed in you. Stop buying golds. There's nothing you take away from this. Don't buy the golds.
At this point, given the state of the deck, just how thick they are, I feel like they need to be prioritizing hunting parties, hunting lodges a bit more. Like hunting lodge, probably not over hunting party, but at least a few more hunting parties, please.
No, DZ, it's a new thing. He used to be complaining about Way of the Mouse, but now it's Gold.
I love Way of the Mouse. That's the best way. I have Way of the Mouse on my like list. It's so fun. There's so many fun and innovative combinations, especially when you roll something like Way of the Vassal. That's a real fun one.
Way of the Vassal is only fun when there's sheepdog.
Way of the Vassal is always fun.
No, but when you roll Way of the Vassal and there's not sheepdog and there's not Caravan Guard or Falconer or anything like that, then you're always sad because you think about what might have been.
I had a nice Way of the Mouse as Black Cat plus Caravan Guard game where you could react to their attacks with Caravan Guard, but then play it as Black Cat to curse them for attacking you.
But you just have to because
it's like a counterattack.
So fun. It does make sense to do Mouse Vassal because of all of the cooked boards where people show off all the just wonky scenarios.
Anyways, about this game, a card that I think is pretty important here is Haggler. Not that you need it super early. Again, thinning first is early and getting deck control. But as soon as I got deck control, I want to be adding Haggler because it's a really good gainer. You know, every time you buy a card, you get another card. And Haggler's still a pretty good deal. Yeah. I probably want 2 to 3 Hagglers, and then if you got 2 buys, maybe just play with 1 Baron for 2 buys. And you could buy 2 provinces and gain 4 action cards. That's really good.
I think we can step back from Haggler though and just focus on Steward, or Goatherd, or just trashing in general. It's good, and especially on a board like this, where I guess I shouldn't say a board like this. I should more specify. There's plentiful actions. There's plentiful draw. There's wonderful payload in Haggler, and to an extent Baron. There's plus buy. You really want to get thin.
I mean, I'm going to say that without all the caveats. Just getting thin is generally a good idea.
Yeah, I just feel like providing reasons makes it just easier for.
I mean, even if you're not planning on building a super big engine, let's say you're playing money. You know, if you threw Steward into that previous kingdom, I would happily pick up a Steward and trash to get a thin deck so I can play my Lucky Coin more often, even if the ultimate goal is just to play big money with a bunch of silvers.
Yeah, I mean, if I had Steward in that kingdom, I'd probably do some Workers' Village Sheepdog thing. I'd probably lose, but I'd probably still do it.
Yeah, I guess if you had Steward, then remove Workers' Village Sheepdog and replace it with Steward. Right? If you have a money kingdom and you have Steward, I would still trash with it. That's my point.
But if you remove Workers' Village, then the buy costs 5 and your P-Stone doesn't do as much.
I wouldn't have a P-Stone. There's no P-Stone. That card doesn't exist.
What league are you in?
I'm not in P-League.
This is J-League.
No, the P is for P-Stone.
I get it now. I figured. I got it. That's funny.
There used to be a P-League. I don't think it exists anymore.
Yeah, it ran for 2 seasons. Those were fun games to commentate, usually. RIP League. Yes, indeed.
The RIP stands for really into P-Stones.
Yeah. Isn't there someone who was in P-League who's now in, League E or League D?
I have no idea. That doesn't sound plausible, right? Because P-League was only, 2 seasons ago.
Bob.
They couldn't have already gotten into League D, could they?
Yeah, because you wouldn't promote into J. It was just based on... the point was just to get 30 rated games, so you could then be put into a division. Yeah, I think it was Sniper Bob.
There's a person named Sniper Bob who has gone straight from P-League up to D-League. That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Dita looks like they're in a good spot to win this game.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a thing where you
with
can
a good draw, maybe ThinkLauren could tie here. But that would require a real good draw.
Well, wouldn't have to involve Baron gaining an estate.
It would involve buying a province and a duchy.
Well, province and a duchy ties, but province,
that's
duchy, Baron gaining estate wins.
I said with a good draw, they could tie. Yeah, maybe there's like a really good draw where they win. I'm not sure the deck can do that much. Hitting 13 without the 4 coins from Baron seems difficult. Yeah, I think it's fair to say
we each have 2 golds though, so there is that.
Sniper Bob is currently in League D after 2 seasons in E.
I think you missed a word there, which meant to say was they each have 2 mini golds.
Yes.
I could maybe see picking up golds for payload here because just...
No, you can't. Stop. No.
Actually, no, never mind. I just realized Baron's the only buy, so never mind. Can't.
Yeah, Haggler payload, even Ironmonger too. Like I feel like there should be some more Ironmongers as well, but
the Ironmonger at 6 is also a travesty.
Again, basically, I want hunting parties for draw. Could be some combination of Rabbler, Ironmonger as well, depending on what your deck looks like. But mostly hunting party, I think, is the best draw here. And then 2 to 3 Hagglers, 1 or 2 Barons, and then probably looking to build to about double province. And then it's nice that you can province while still improving your deck with Haggler, because you can buy a province. And usually you can buy a province early because it hurts your deck. But if you buy a province and add 2 action cards, that might end up net improving your deck.
Then again, I'm just looking at the game here, and based on evidence that from what happened here, the person who didn't buy a steward won, and the person who didn't do the double curse opening lost. So I think that just speaks for itself. Ooh, Mountbank.
I dislike Mountebank a lot. I banned this card the moment the ban list rolled out and have not looked back. Mountebank is a really strong card in a really bad way. It's one of the best cards in the game. And it's just because the attack is so goddamn painful. Hitting them with 2 junk cards at once is really bad. And Mountebank, even more than other junkers, just tends to make the game turn into this painful slog where your deck is just like a sea of junk and does nothing. And it's both because it's a really strong junker in its own right. It gives you 2 junk cards. But it's also because Mountebank itself is more of a payload card and not like a deck control card. Like Witch at least draws, Cultist draws, Ambassador trashes. Draw and trashing at least help you get control of your deck while hurting your opponents. If you both do that, there's some equilibrium you reach. Mountebank doesn't help you get control of your deck. It gives you money. So it encourages like sad money slog strategies where your deck is just like full of junk and you're buying like a province or duchy one at a time.
Then again, there are 5 cards that I'd rather have on my ban list. So one of them is actually on this board with Rebuild.
Rebuild? Why do you ban Rebuild?
It's annoying. That's all I have. It's just...
Well, it's going to be one of the best ways through the Mountebank garbage because Sheepdog, only real draw here, and
Mountebank also activates Sheepdog.
So you can't even use Church as a Mountebank defense for storing your curses. You just got to get insanely lucky.
Yeah, so I would think here, I want to play with a Mountebank. There's pretty good trashing here with Forager and Church, and so I want to make sure I've got a decent number of those because the junk's going to hit with Mountebank around. And then those cards will also pair with Market Square pretty well because when you trash, you can also gain a gold off of Market Square. And then I think you're playing mostly money-ish with just gain some gold with Market Squares, attack your opponent with 1 or 2 Mountebanks, and then buy provinces, I think is enough.
DZ, are you referring to Colonnade or Ride? Because I don't know why you would ban either. Also,
I have Colonnade banned. I don't like Colonnade.
Why? I mean, I guess.
Well, so to be fair, in general, the landscapes are a lot less unpleasant than the card. Like the worst cards are much worse than the worst landscapes. The only landscape I really hate is Battlefield. But Colonnade just kind of like influences your early buys in annoying ways. It's kind of random whether like the card you want now is a card you've just played, and it encourages you to buy cards you don't really want in a way that sort of skews your strategy in bad ways.
I mean, the thing with Colonnade is a good amount of the time, the card you want one of, you're going to want a second one of. So it's not as big a deal to pick up a second one just to shuffle earlier if you feel like 2 points are going to matter. On a different note, Mountebank is still at 10, even though I guess it's turned 5. Did they both not hit 5?
Well, given their openings, it seems really unlikely they would hit 5. They haven't opened anything that gets you to 5.
And
so let's talk about the openings for a second.
The Colonnade points, like Sheepdog is still a card I would definitely want a lot of. So I do like getting ready with a lot of Sheepdogs, because the more you have, the better your deck can be for the Mountebank attacks if they end up happening.
Yeah, Sheepdog's interesting here because like there's no village support or anything, but it's still kind of fine because their Mountebank would trigger it, and if you gain a gold off of Market Square, it can trigger it. I don't think I want Sheepdog as early as they do though, just because there's higher priority cards. I really want a bunch of trashers, and then I'm going to want Market Square to get gold, and then after that I would think about Sheepdogs.
Also, the key interaction here, Transmute can trigger Sheepdog. ThinkLauren has seen this and is now preparing.
Oh no, don't say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the openings first. So as far as the openings go, I mean, there's a decent number of good cards here with, Church and Forager or good trashers. I think with a lot of kingdoms, double Church is a strong baseline. It's a good way to get thin fast, and it really helps you sort of control what numbers you hit because you can set aside extra coppers to like hit one big price point turn 4, for example. So double Church is not a bad opening ever. I think you could also consider maybe Church Silver here is probably a bit more likely to get you to an early Mountebank. I think that's my preferred opening, would be Church Silver. I don't like the Market Square for ThinkLauren. The idea is there. You got a Trasher and you got a Market Square, but it's too soon.
But Transmute triggers Market Square also. Transmute is just such a good card. It's triggering everything. And also it can trash the Mountebank curses.
Stop. No. I want to rant about how wrong that is, but I'm not there yet. We're still in the opening.
I just want to clarify, this is all sarcasm. Transmute is not good here, nor almost ever.
Yeah. I could talk faster if you want. So, in any case, for the opening, I think that you want 2 trashers early on if you want to get really thin. So, for example, 2 churches or a church and a forger could be fine. But I think here getting Mountebank is a higher priority, so I'd be willing to open a silver first to get an early Mountebank. And then you can get a Mountebank and junk your opponent faster than they can trash, because Mountebank gives you 2 junk cards at once, whereas any of the trashers can only trash once at a time. So I'd value a Mountebank over a second trasher. The Market Square is good in principle, getting it with the trasher, but it's too early. There's a greater than 50% likelihood you don't even line it up with the trasher in the first place, in which case it's doing nothing for you. And even if you do, gold is really not that important early on. There you go, DZ. All right. Still not quite caught up, but I'm going to slow down here a bit. So, yeah, with the Market Square, gold is fine and all. It's the ultimate goal, but it's not that good early even. Again, import rant from last kingdom. Buying gold is usually horrible. Gaining gold, like with the Market Square, is a lot less bad than buying gold, but it still has the problem that gold's not that strong of a card. You want deck control, so you can play the cards that you really value more often, which comes with trashing cards, and you want to attack your opponent so they don't have deck control with Mountebank. And gold's not really doing either of those things. And so gold is the thing you're eventually going to want, because the kingdom's not strong enough to build an engine, so you don't want to fill your deck with golds, but you want to do that a little bit. That's the intermediate level step, is once you get your deck pretty thin, then you throw in Market Square. Once you're finding a trash every turn, you can get a gold like every turn or two. So I don't like the Market Square as early as ThinkLauren got it. I'd probably add it a little bit later.
I would really love to think that these players agreed in DMs before the match just to ignore Mountebank and rebuild if they ever showed up.
Well, I wouldn't get rebuild here. I would ignore rebuild because rebuild's bad. But Mountebank is certainly very strong. We can note rebuild for a second. So rebuild is actually a card that I would expect to do very well in J-League matches. It is a strong baseline that just never gets any stronger. If you just learn basic rebuild rush strategy, that's like a solid way to get to level 50 or so, at least in rebuild kingdoms. Obviously, it wouldn't work in non-rebuild kingdoms, where you just get like 3 rebuilds, and then you rush provinces. That's it. You just like buy 2 silvers, you buy 3 rebuilds. Don't buy any estates. That's a common mistake with rebuild games. Just don't buy any estates. Trash your current estates, and maybe like 1 duchy. And then your goal is to get like 4 provinces. And then once you get 4 provinces, you just turn provinces into provinces until the game's over. And that is like reasonably good. And in fact, in weak kingdoms, it can be best. Like I still play rebuild sometimes on weak kingdoms. But it's good enough that it'll beat people who are okay. But the problem is like there's not a whole lot of ways to improve upon that very strongly. And so rebuild never really gets any better. And then once you get good at building engines, it usually loses. Like I wouldn't play rebuild here, for example. I think it would even lose to a decent money strategy here, especially mounted bank around. All right, so now the
mountain bank got taken.
All right,
ThinkLauren has taken the first mountain bank on turn 12 after taking a province.
Right. So now about this transmute that we were discussing. Transmute is like, I'd say like the second or third worst card in the game. The worst card in the game we saw last time, which is Philosopher's Stone. Philosopher's Stone is unequivocally the worst card in the entire game. Transmute is like duking it out with Harvest, I'd say, or Navigator for like, it's in contention for second worst. The problem with Transmute is it's a trasher, but every time you trash a card, it gives you another card back. So it doesn't make your deck any thinner, right? Like you trash a copper, you get another Transmute, your deck is no thinner than the one before. And then B, it has that same potion problem. This is the problem with a lot of the weaker alchemy cards is they're locked behind potion. If you want to thin early to get your deck control fast. With Transmute, you first have to make your deck thicker by adding a potion. That's 1 shuffle out of the way. Then you have to find the potion, play the potion, buy the Transmute, draw back around to the Transmute. And then you haven't even trashed once to sort of undo the damage you've done from the potion until like shuffle 4. And trashing is all about tempo. So if you're trashing slowly, it's really, really bad. Especially when juxtaposed with 2 strong trashers. Like Church and Forager are both perfectly fine trashers. And so Transmute is a card, much like Philosopher's Stone. I would just pretend it doesn't exist, and you will play better. Just don't get it. It's bad. And especially in this kingdom, where you have much, much better alternatives.
It's not like the first kingdom where Philosopher's Stone was... I can't even...
Don't do it. Don't do it. I know what you're about to do. Don't.
Okay, I'm done with this trope. It's not like the first kingdom where Philosopher's Stone was not as bad as it usually is. If you get like 3 of them, not if you get stop. But
if you get 0 of them, it's actually pretty good.
I guess. But if you want to do the fun thing, I guess at a higher level, getting Philosopher's Stone is a rarity. So when it even comes up as a possibility of being not so bad, it's fun.
But it was not a possibility. I don't want to entertain the notion that it was a possibility.
Keystone isn't fun. I don't know. I disagree. I think it's just funny. It's a funny card to have in a kingdom.
All right, get to see our first mountain bank play too.
Yeah, I do like the mountain bank, but it's much, much too late to make as much of an impact as it could. Right. The reason mountain bank is so strong is because it junks your opponent. You do that early. You put like a curse and a copper there. Those cards are there for the rest of the game, or at least they have to waste a trash on them, and then they're not trashing another card. And that effect is cumulative. Their deck slows down every shuffle. If you get a mountain bank at the very end game, when they're not going to see those cards ever again, then it's starting to look more like a silver. So it's certainly not a bad buy or anything, but it's a lot less good here than if they'd gotten it earlier on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a sheepdog had to be sacrificed. I would have gone for the silver there, but yeah, it's ditastrutt's in a bit of a rough spot here.
That's actually really unthematic, I would say. If you're killing a sheepdog for benefit, that's not so much foraging as hunting.
Yes.
I guess your foraging just didn't pan out the way you hoped it would, and now you're stuck.
Or maybe it's farming, actually. Like, hunting would imply you went out and like caught a wild sheepdog. The sheepdog's a domesticated animal. So this is more like pastoralism. Like you've raised a farm animal and then killed it for its food.
I guess maybe with Forager getting coins, it's more like selling it, in a sense.
So it's like a butcher. Oh, Complain, nice of you to join us for the first time over the course of this match.
We are on one mount bank gained.
We are indeed on
something.
one mount bank gained.
I don't know what it is, but it's something.
All right.
I think Lauren has.
So that's 1.5 each.
I think Lauren has just knocked Strut out of contention.
Oh, is it just me, or is TeamOkay's audio cutting out there?
It's cutting out.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Sorry, I'd like to say it's not you, it's me, but in this case, it is you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe since there's a break, I'm just going to quickly go and restart my computer and hope that fixes things.
Alrighty.
So I have to say, in this game, I did like ditastrutt's trashing here. I think they got about as under control as you could on that game.
Yeah, trashing is good. Definitely.
I think part of the problem was maybe just a little hard with enough economy there towards the end. But yeah, there's also the other. I think Lauren might have overgained gold quite a bit. Speak from personal experience just recently of having accidentally done that myself with market squares.
Oh yeah. So, with market square, you don't even always want to gain the gold if you can. Sometimes just keeping your deck thin, and you also remember that you're passing up on one draw every time you discard market square instead of playing it. Sometimes doing that can be more of an impediment than the gold is a benefit. Anyways, let's talk about this kingdom. So I'll get to the storyteller horn thing in a second. I will say immediately though, this is definitely an engine kingdom. You've got trashing between church and recruiter, two very strong trashers. You've got draw with storyteller. You've got actions with wandering minstrel, as well as villagers, which function as plus action from recruiter. Displace can also trash things. There's no plus buy, but you can gain things off of Horn of Plenty or Displace. And so definitely a big engine to be built here. We got all the components and very strong ones at that. And now as far as payload goes, Horn of Plenty is a really strong engine payload. It's not so good in big money, because it's hard to line up a bunch of cards, and you're just getting 3 or 4 cost cards most of the time. But Horn of Plenty is one of the best, if not maybe the best, engine payloads in the game. Up there with, in contention with Bridge Troll, I would say, for best engine payloads. The idea is you just build a big deck, and you put a bunch of horns in it. And then an engine will naturally get 8 unique cards in play pretty easily. And then once you have 8 unique cards in play, every Horn of Plenty can just gain you a province. And so you just don't green at all until the final turn, and then you just pop all your horns and gain all the provinces all at once. And that's really good because instead of greening one at a time and hurting your deck progressively over the course of the game, you save all your greening until the last turn. And up until that point, these horns are helpful. They're gaining you lots of cards. It makes building very easy and very simple. I don't want to displace here because I think Horn of Plenty is better. It's just worth noting that Displace can also gain you cards. Displace is a strong card too. I just think it's outclassed by Horn of Plenty for the gaining part. And then for the trashing part, it's outclassed by Recruiter. So let's look at the opens. Actually, first let me think about what my open is. 5-2 is a very easy Recruiter border guard. Nothing else looks close. Recruiter is an incredibly strong trasher. Really good. Arguably the best card in the game. I'd say probably second best after Silk Merchant. So strong. It trashes. It draws. It's not really a draw card, but the draw is really valuable. And it gives you villagers. So it does everything but plus buy. And then Border Guard is a nice, flexible 2-cost card that makes you more likely to find your cards. So 5-2, easy Border Guard Recruiter. On 3-4 or 4-3, I think probably just double Church. I think Conspirator Church could also be fine because it's a little bit more likely to hit 5. But for me, I would take the double Church opening. That's what they did.
Yeah. So ThinkLauren did the Church Conspirator open. ditastrutt went Silver Wandering Minstrel.
Okay, yeah. I see what chat's saying now about not liking ditastrutt's opening. I dislike this. So Wandering Minstrel, I was just saying this in game 1, I believe it was. It's a village. Wandering Minstrel is a very strong village. It's really good at what it does, which is it gives you plus action, which helps you play more of your action cards, and it helps you find those action cards. It can sift through your junk. The problem is, if you put it in your deck when your deck is 3 estate, 7 coppers, and a silver, is doing literally nothing for you because there's no actions for it to find. So neither the find your actions part or the play actions part is helpful. Sorry, what did you say?
And potentially actively harming you too, because you could end up discarding your silver.
You could trigger a bad shuffle even, with it.
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
And so, this goes back to that principle of, like, your opening should be about what cards do I need in my deck immediately to jumpstart my deck, not what cards do I eventually want in my deck. And I'd be happy with, like, a Wandering Minstrel eventually, but it's not an early priority. The openings I was discussing were Double Church, which gets you thin fast, or Church Conspirator, which gets you thin while also making you pretty likely to hit 5. Take it Recruiter, which also makes you thin. You'll notice a theme here. In general, getting thin early is a priority. Maintain deck control, and then you can build up from there.
It's nice you went back to episode 2 of an important card getting skipped early, or I guess not skipped anymore, and Janiel's ranting about it.
Yeah. So what we're eventually going to want to do here is just build up. You can get really thin, and you're going to want to play a bunch of horns. And then the best draw, actually the only draw really here, is Storyteller. Storyteller basically converts all your treasures into draw. And so you'll want some amount of money. That could come from Fool's Gold, it could come from Conspirator, maybe even silvers. But you're going to need a little bit of money, basically, to feed your Storytellers for draw. And the ultimate goal is to play Horns of Plenty. There's a nice little interaction that would come up at the end game. I don't expect to see it here, just given the way they're building, but maybe it will. With Storyteller and Horn of Plenty. Which is, Storyteller normally gains things in the buy phase. And so that makes it hard to do gain and play things with it, where you gain a card and play it at the same turn. But with Storyteller lets you put your treasures in play during the action phase. So you could play Horns of Plenty with Storyteller. Now that doesn't do anything directly to affect Storyteller's strength. Storyteller's going to draw as many cards as it would have otherwise, because Horn of Plenty is worth 0 coins. But the reason that matters is because if you play Horn of Plenty in the action phase instead of in the buy phase, then you're gaining that card sooner, and that means you can draw back to that card and play that. So for example, let's say I play a Storyteller and then play 3 Horns of Plenty, then I can gain 3 Horns of Plenty, then play another Storyteller, and then draw the 3 Horns of Plenty, and then play those on the same turn. And you can see how that has like sort of a compound interest effect. And so that's a key interaction I would pick up on here. Is while I'm building the Horn of Plenty deck, you can escalate it more quickly using Storyteller to play Horns of Plenty early to get the cards you want and then also play them.
Interesting. That is not one that is not a combo I knew about there.
I actually saw. I didn't saw. I played a game just recently. I think it was yesterday, where the key thing to do was you put all your Horns of Plenty in play with Storyteller to gain extra cards. Then you gain a Mandarin, which takes all your Horns of Plenty back out of play. And then you can draw them a second time and play all your Horns of Plenty in the same turn twice. And that led to a nice early pile-out that my opponent missed. That was pretty fun. You could do more than twice even. Twice was all that was necessary to win, though. And I've kind of lost track of where they've gone since the opening. Let's see. So turn 3, ditastrutt got a Fool's Gold. I can see the logic in that. Fool's Gold, again, can be a decent payload for Storyteller. I think this early I just want the Border Guard for the sifting effect, though. Helps you find the cards you really want to play earlier. Uh-oh. Now I'm confused. So ditastrutt got a Fool's Gold turn 3 and a Silver turn 4. And I think that's like suggesting an inconsistency in strategy there. You either want to commit to Fool's Gold or not get it at all. Because Fool's Gold benefits from having a lot of them. It's not very good to have one Fool's Gold, not others. So if you're going Fool's Gold, just like stick to that plan Fool's Gold consistently, and don't get silvers. Just get more Fool's Golds.
And Fool's Gold does look great here with Storyteller. It's kind of a draw 4. Reacting Fool's Gold. Well, are there golds in exile? I'm referring to Rapid's comment. Consideration. I don't know. I haven't been keeping very good track of how many Fool's Gold each player has. But, with the pile at 5, reacting 1 to get a gold out of exile in a money-ish deck doesn't seem like the worst thing.
Yeah, I don't like the direction these decks are going. This is definitely not the direction to take. The fact that complaint is put that way is bad. Yeah, so Storytellers are at 10, which is a bad sign. again, we were suggesting this is a strong engine kingdom. But there's only one reliable source of draw here, which is Storyteller. You can't really draw in any capacity with any other way. Recruiter might look like draw, because it says +2 cards, but it's not actually draw. Moat, which says +2 cards, is draw. But the reason Recruiter isn't is because it makes you trash a card. So if you have like a 5-card hand, and you play a Recruiter, your Recruiter leaves your hand, so you're down to 4, then you draw 2 cards, you're up to 6, so your hand's increased, but you've got to trash a card and goes back down to 5. So playing Recruiter is never going to make your hand any bigger or smaller than it was before, barring some weird exception like Fortress. So you can't draw here with Recruiter. The key draw is Storyteller, where you play treasures and use Storyteller to make your hand big. And Storyteller Tim means they're not really building an engine. Yeah, these decks feel unfocused to me. Like, what's the goal here? If you wanted to play money, like let's just say we removed Storyteller or something, and tried to make this more of a money-ish kingdom, and you wanted to play like a simpler one province at a time strategy. It's still hard to tell exactly what they're aiming towards. Like if you wanted the Fool's Gold thing, I would commit heavily to the Fool's Golds. You want a thin deck to make sure that your Fool's Golds collide with each other. So like take 2 churches early, and then just buy Fool's Golds pretty consistently and get a bunch of them. Yeah, honestly, like I think what Complaint is saying is not even unreasonable, but just like you might still try for the Horns, even with like no real draw, because it's so strong. But
Horns just a really good card, and also Church would still be helping it.
I'm trying to entertain the money thing for a second, just to hypothesize about how these could be better. If, for example, like maybe they didn't notice the engine or something. So if you want a Fool's Gold, stick to it consistently. You want a thin deck, a lot of Fool's Gold, no other treasures. If you want to do the Conspirator thing, like I see they got some Conspirators, well, then you don't want any treasures. You want a bunch of actions. Right? Conspirator is really awkward in a deck with few actions, because it's not going to activate. You're just going to play it for 2 coins, which makes it weaker than Silver. Conspirator is great in a deck with lots of actions. So you just click like Conspirators, Wandering Minstrels, Border Guards for the most part, with like a Displacer or Horn of Plenty for gaining.
Yeah, I mean, in a Conspirator deck, I think you could still handle some amount of horns with Wandering Minstrel just helping draw those last. But you don't want, and like you could handle some treasures rather, but like you want those to all be horns.
Yeah, and then lastly, if I were playing Displace, I think a third potential money strategy here could be, Displace works kind of well with golds, because gold costs 6. And while gold is not a very strong card, it is good at being expensive, if nothing else. And so you can displace gold into a province. And then there's Way of the Camel, which makes golds easy to get. So you could camel a few Border Guards at some point early on in the game to stock up on golds in exile, then unexile those golds by buying it once, and then displace those golds in the province. That's like a third strategy that could be viable. The main point I was trying to get at is like, you kind of want to have a game plan. Like early on, like when I see the kingdom, I would think about not just what I want to buy turn 1, but like where's my deck ultimately going, right? And is that displaced with golds? Is that Church Fool's Gold? Is that Conspirators and action cards? Here it's none of those. It's Horn of Plenty, but like whatever it is, you want to decide that. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm buying those actions immediately. Like we were saying, the card you want long term might not be the card you buy early, but you still want to have an idea of where your deck is going, because that can influence which cards you buy turn 1, even if it's not the cards that you're trying to get long term.
I feel like just on that path, a good thing to that these players could be doing would be to just take a minute at the beginning of the kingdom and just figure out what you want your deck to look like after the first shuffle, after the second shuffle, before you start greening.
I don't like this.
After.
Never mind. I was about to comment on something ThinkLauren did, but it's going to be fine. They're going to hit 8. Sorry, you were saying?
It's okay. We made it. And it was just like, figure out where your deck is going to be at various important points in the game, and then just build towards something instead of just aimlessly kind of pointing to what you've been saying the entire match.
Yeah. Yeah, so we saw a ditastrutt get a horn, but a single horn in an otherwise very money-ish deck is not that good. It's just like a generic gainer. It'll gain you like some random cards, and that's fine. Like maybe that Conspirator deck we were talking about could have like a horn in it just because you want gains. But
I think even 2.
what?
I think even 2 in that deck would be fine. With
Yeah, maybe. But the real strength of Horn comes from building in an engine, because you build up to a ton of horns and then score provinces with them. And we didn't see that, and so we definitely saw the Horn get underplayed here.
This is game 5 now?
But yeah, I'd say Horn is easily a top 20, top 30 card, and Recruiter is like a top 3 card.
Here it is again.
Unfortunate to see those. All right, can we do the Horn thing here? This is looking a lot less obvious to me. This might not be a Horn King.
I see Sinister Plot, I see Horn, and I really wish there was Philosopher's Stone here again.
Yeah, so the thing, this kingdom in general is not very strong engine or anything. You don't have any source of plus action. You've got trashing with Spice Merchant, Steward, Lone, and Ratcatcher, and Puka. There's a lot of trashing.
And Farmland. And Tragic
Farmland's
Hero.
not trashing. Farmland turns one card into a different card.
That's fine.
So
it turns your estates into treasures. No, not really. Turns your estates into 4s into treasures.
Yeah. Anyways, you can't really build much of an engine here because of the lack of plus action. And then your only draw is Terminal, right? Tragic Hero, Puka, and Steward are all draw.
Well, there's Sinister Plot, but that's
I'm getting there.
Not at all reliable.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I'm gonna defend Plot in a second.
Sorry.
But without plus action, you can never play multiples of these, right? So you can't draw up with all those cards. Spice Merchant might look like non-terminal draw, but it's not for the same reason Recruiter's not. You got to trash to get the +2 action or +2 cards. So you're not net drawing cards. And Horn of Plenty, again, it's a big mega turn. If you want to do the Horn of Plenty thing, you got to draw all the cards. And so my initial take on the kingdom was like, oh, it's not a Horn of Plenty kingdom because there's not really an engine to be built. And the thing you were just about to say is the thing that made me say, actually, never mind, is Sinister Plot actually kind of makes it work anyway. Because it's not draw in the sense of like you can't build an engine where you draw your deck every turn. But you could store up Sinister Plot and just have one big Horn of Plenty mega turn. And I think that's the goal here.
Well, what are your 8 uniques? Your 8 uniques are Copper, Silver, Gold, Lone, Horn, Spice Merchant, Harem, and Ratcatcher, or a Terminal, or
sure.
I guess you can have 9 things here, and you just need to have 8 of them.
Yeah,
so it won't be Tragic Hero.
I want to trash like all but one of my coppers with Spice Merchant.
Cursed Gold.
I will trash all my estates with Steward, and then I'll acquire. So that's 2 cards right there. Horn of Plenty is a 3rd. Then you get Copper, Silver, Gold. That's 6.
Harem.
Then Harem and Lone. That's 8. You can even throw in a Ratcatcher. Now note that Ratcatcher, to count towards Horn of Plenty, the turn you play Ratcatcher, it won't count because you play the Ratcatcher, but then it goes into your Tavern mat instead of staying in play. But the next turn, if you call Ratcatcher and trash something with it, then the Ratcatcher will be in play. So if you want Ratcatcher to count towards Horn of Plenty, it'll be on the turn that you call the Ratcatcher, not the turn you play the Ratcatcher. Just a minor detail there.
But then again, you can trigger the Sinister Plot before the Ratcatcher, so finding a target shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Then again, you do need Sinister Plot if you want to do this, and I think you maybe do want to do this. It should be faster than...
Yeah, I would play in the horn thing. I would open Steward and then Sinister Plot and just never take the plot until the last turn. I want to build it really big because my deck's going to be a decent number of cards in it. I want to find them all. Just let the plot sit and marinate while I'm acquiring my horns and then all the other cards. And then I'm going to pop it all at once and gain all the provinces in one turn. I think that's the best strategy here. Now, that last kingdom was a very strong engine Horn Kingdom. We didn't see them play the engine to go for Horn. So here we're the kind of like more tenuous, awkward Horn Kingdom. I really don't expect them to do that. So what's the next best thing if you're not trying for the Horn Mega Turn?
Tragic Hero money?
Yeah, so definitely money here. I'm not... Tragic Hero is probably fine. You can get a hand size big enough to pop it with like Sinister Plot, for example. Tragic Hero won't pop if played from a 5-card hand. You need to have a 6-card hand or larger to trigger it. So, for example, if you have Tragic Hero in hand, you could call Sinister Plot that turn and then pop it and gain a gold or a harem. But if I were playing money here, I would still want to get pretty thin. Oh, I said open Plot Steward. That doesn't make sense with Curse Gold. I forgot about Curse Gold. Maybe like double Steward and then get Plot soon. I'm not sure exactly, but Curse Gold influences that opening.
on the 3-3 split, and on the 3-3 split, maybe double steward. On the 4-2 split, I think I do. I really do want to take plot early. Just
I think a planes take is
make it much
plausible.
easier.
You could take a curse to open with plot, especially turn 1. Yeah, I think ditastrutt's opening here is pretty fine. Steward Silver seems like a totally reasonable thing. Steward's a good trasher, and then Silver can get you economy. ThinkLauren opens Spice Merchant Rogue. I don't like that as much. I think on 4-2, I'd open Plot Ratcatcher, but Spice Merchant Ratcatcher would also be fine if you aren't doing the horn thing, which I assume they're not.
I mean, even Plot Spice Merchant's not the worst thing.
I don't think Rogue is strong enough to justify taking Curse 4. It's like, it's okay.
Forget that. I don't think Rogue is strong enough to justify being a terminal in my deck here.
Yeah, I want to use my terminal action space on Steward to trash with. The other thing is, my opponent, they can just trash their Cursed Gold with Spice Merchant, and then the Rogue is just going to pick up an extra Cursed Gold for me, which is really undesirable. Or trash with Steward in ditastrutt's case. If I saw my opponent get a Rogue, I'd be looking to trash my Cursed Gold as soon as possible. Well, if you had a farmland in your deck, which you shouldn't, but unfortunately, it looks like they do.
Crashing state into Spice Merchant is not the worst use of farmland, but I don't know.
That sounds pretty useless to me. I mean, like, turning an estate into a farmland isn't making your deck any better.
I mean, it sets you up better. It's, like, slightly better. Doesn't do much, though. The art on farmland I do quite like now that DZ mentions it.
The art on farmland? Yeah, that's good art. I agree. I like it.
I just like the steppingness.
Let's look at the art real fast. Unfortunately, it's right next to Harem, which is like among the worst art in the game. Goodness gracious, that's ugly. I'm gonna stop looking at Harem. That's horrible. Tragic Hero's fine. I like Tragic Hero.
Embarrassing. Yeah, that's right. That's the better word.
Rogue's okay. Puka's okay. I like Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher looks like Hagrid. What do you say?
I'm a fan of Puka's art. I think that's it may not be the best card, but it's got some pretty nice art in my book.
Spice Merchant just looks so happy to sell you spices. I like the horn. It's a very generic painting, but it works. I don't like Steward so much. Okay, I think the top tier art here is Farmland. Bottom tier is Harem. Steward's also pretty low down on the list. The rest of them are pretty middling. Oh, I also like Sinister Plot's art.
Yeah, they got a nice potion flowing.
I don't like Cursed Gold art. It looks like flaming cookies. Uh-oh. What happened here? Oh, I see what happened here. While we were discussing art, ditastrutt. Oh no. Oh no. Well, so, among the reasons to buy gold, or to not to buy gold, usually the reason you're not buying gold is because gold is terrible. But supposing, for example, we thought gold was a good card and we wanted to get gold, and we had 7 in hand, like Dita had here, 2 from Spice Merchant plus 5, and we wanted a gold. We could buy the gold, which costs 6, or we could buy Reap, which we can also afford for 7, which gets you that gold, but also sets it aside and immediately plays it. So it's like drawing the gold for free and guaranteeing it to the top of your deck. So Dita just passed up on like free bonus for no good reason. That's definitely a mistake.
Hashtag Reap is draw.
Reap makes gold a cantrip for 1 turn, basically.
I'd love to see a board where just Reap being... I mean, is it even possible for it to be a thing? Maybe it was story.
Well, Reap is never draw. Reap is not draw. The problem is gold is like anti-draw, and Reap is just neutralizing the anti-draw of rolls.
But is Reap just... I guess, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going here. Just forget it.
Also, on ThinkLauren's side, she took a rogue out of the trash and then bought a Tragic Hero. Tragic Hero is already in the trash, so I've taken... I think Tragic Hero is a much better card here. And there's that nice little interaction of you trash it for your treasure, and then you can, like, if you already happen to have the rogue in your deck, then you can take your tragic hero back. So there could have had the opportunity for 2 more tragic heroes instead.
There's not a tragic hero in the trash.
Maybe there was one.
Oh, is there not? I thought I saw. I thought I saw one in the trash.
Maybe you saw it get revealed by their loan when they played the loan. Is that possibly what you're thinking of?
Oh, that's okay. All right, never mind. Then forget everything I said. Forget everything I said then.
I think something in this kingdom that I've seen a lot of lower level players suffer from is the get every action-itis. Like sometimes, even though usually it's nice to build an engine, and here maybe you want to do not an engine, but like a mega turning thing.
Sometimes the mega turn thing mostly wants treasures.
Yeah. Sometimes, assuming neither player's going to go for it, which it's looking like. Sometimes the money-ish thing is just going to be the best thing. You don't need to get like 3 or 2 of every action.
Yeah, again, I would think about what you want the overall consistency of your deck to look like. Not just like get to the end of each turn and then decide like which card looks nice right now, what card do I currently want to buy. You want to have an idea of what the composition of your deck is going to be. And we were saying here earlier, that obviously I think the optimal strat is the Sinister Plot, Horn of Plenty Megaturn. Setting that aside, if we didn't do that, like remove Plot from the Kingdom, for example, because neither of them bought it. In that case, the big limitation in this kingdom is there's no plus action. There's not a single card here that can help you play additional action cards. And then you combine that with the fact that almost all the action cards that do something of value in the long term are terminal. Then you can't build a deck that plays a bunch of action cards. And so what that means is there's not much value in having a lot of action cards in this deck because you can only play 1 per hand. And so you want enough action cards in the deck that you're finding like maybe 1 per hand. Like 2 or 3 is often a good number in a big money strategy because you'll find on average maybe 1 of those per turn. But you don't want a bunch because then they bump into each other and you can't play them all.
So a Horn of Plenty has been bought. What do you think of that if we're not going for like a Sinister Plot Horn Megaturn? Do you think it has much value in the deck here? Because it seems like most you can probably get is if you're lucky like 6.
Yeah, so I think about it this way. It's called Horn of Plenty, not Horn of Few. That's a key but subtle bit of advice that it's giving you in its title. It's only good if you're playing a bunch of them. And you're not playing a bunch of them in a deck like this.
I don't know about playing a bunch of them. I mean, like, pulling a Horn of Plenty out of the black market's completely fine. It's a very nice thing. It's a good gainer. But it's much nicer in higher numbers because then you can do the whole province megaturn thing where you play like 6 of them.
I wouldn't even call it nice here. I think it's not very strong. It's going to have that potion problem, right? Which is if you're not ultimately using it to get provinces, then it has the problem of costing 0. Right? So when you reach the greening phase, when you're like, all right, my deck is starting to hit 8, I want to start buying provinces. That Horn of Plenty in your deck is a 0 cost treasure, so it's kind of getting in your way of hitting 8. And it's probably gaining you silvers most of the time, right? It's not easy in this deck to get up to 6 uniques. You're probably not getting to 6. So you're mostly gaining either 5 cost actions, which we said you don't want a bunch of, or you're getting silvers. And like a $0 silver gainer is like, it's like buying a lucky coin. Like, it's okay, but like, it's not a high priority. And if you're getting it late rather than early, it's going to be a lot weaker than Lucky Coin is. Lucky Coin gives you a coin, comes for free, and you get it to start when you want to be filling your deck with silvers, not at the end when you want to be having high cost treasures to green. So I don't like Horn of Plenty that much, and around now I'd be trying to kill it by, like, for example, gaining a duchy, because I don't really want it in my deck anymore.
I think just general in this kingdom also for not having trashed much with Steward. I mean, I guess. Oh, actually, never mind. There's been a lot of trashing, but I still would like to be playing Cursed Gold less. Like the curse trashing is unreliable. With Ratcatcher, I guess can sometimes pick some off, but
Yeah, I mean, trashing is still pretty good here. I would still be trashing my cards.
Well, yeah, but just you can't do it with as much reliability, so playing Cursed Gold has more penalty.
Playing the Master Chef knows how to plate cards for maximum aesthetic value in eating.
Speaking of it, I've never actually looked at Horn of Plenty's art.
It looks like the sort of thing you would paint if you were in an art class. Like, your teacher's like, all right, today we're painting fruit. You're like, all right, I'm going to paint some fruit. And then Donald X contacts you and is like, I need art. And you're like, don't worry, I just painted fruit in my class. Let me just send you the drawing that I just made for my art class. I got an A. But, like, it's well done. Like, it's an A+ fruit drawing.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting, too, like, how just, like, varied some of the art is. Because, like, Hinterlands, most of the cards are on the more realistic looking side. Like Hinterlands and Cornucopia.
I don't know if I'm right or not, but the perspective on the cup looks a little bit off to me. It looks like the angle's a little bit wrong.
It does look, the top of the cup does look kind of shifted to the left a bit. Also
yeah, but then like you've got like Baker and then like
yeah, Horn of Plenty. I think it's named Horn of Plenty because Donald X didn't want to call the card Cornucopia, and the expansion called Cornucopia. And then later, I guess it has said, yeah, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm naming a card menagerie and an expansion menagerie, and I'm going to embrace the confusion.
Yeah. Also, on Horn of Plenty, I like the subtle background. But what's confusing me on the bottom of the art. On the left, it looks more like a shadow, and on the right, it becomes clear that it's just where the table ends.
So,
but also, how's the fruit not falling off the table?
One thing I'm interested in about and currently examining is I'm kind of wondering what how they translate Horn of Plenty in other languages, because I imagine not every language is going to have like 2 synonyms for cornucopia. So do they use the same name that they use for the expansion or not?
I remember some thread talking about this being a problem.
In German, it's
I forget which.
Full horn, which I guess is accurate. It's a horn full of food. In Japanese, it's Hojo no Tsunabue, which is horn of good harvest.
Not to be confused with harvest. I guess good harvest versus harvest.
In Spanish, it's just called cornucopia.
There it is. 5 Spice Merchants games is a fun thing to do in a Tomb Kingdom with plentiful gains.
5 Spice Merchants
because I had that recently, but not good here.
Yeah, so Spice Merchant, I would say, is a card you usually want one of. It'll get rid of your coppers in time, and you're usually not as urgently trying to get rid of your coppers as you are with the states, because the states are worse for your deck than the coppers. So I'd say usually 1 Spice Merchant's good, and I think that 2 Spice Merchants can be good if you've got like a good trash for benefit card. Like, for example, if I had Displace from the previous game in the Kingdom, I could see getting 2 Spice Merchants to get thin faster, with the idea that then I can turn those Spice Merchants into something of value by displacing them, and that could make 2 Spice Merchants a little bit better. But 5 feels like overkill. I don't think there's a good reason to have 5 between the 2 of them. I am trying to say that complain, yes.
The only reason you generally want more than 1 Spice Merchant, like 2 has its games, but not often. The other main reason is because you want for the plus buy. In which case you would need to have a treasure gainer, but other than that, single game. Also not the case here. Here you probably just want 1 to get thin.
Yeah, there was another opportunity for farmland. Get rid of a Spice Merchant, and then you could farmland that into a farmland or a harem. But yeah. It's going. Piles are slowly lowering.
Turn 24.
I had a game once that went longer than 30 turns. I think it involved Familiar. You just rush Familiars really fast and your deck is terrible.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think the worst one I played recently was it had familiar and transport, so you didn't even need to get the potion or anything. Just every time you hit 3, you just buy transport familiar, either to put it in your exile or take it out of your exile. And then you do that as rapidly as you can to try to win the curse split. And then at some point your decks are just like 7 coppers, a bunch of cantrips, 3 estates, and 5 curses. At which point hitting 3 is a struggle.
That's fun.
And then it takes like 20 more turns to get a functioning deck.
I recently had a game that went 28 turns where I doubt it was optimal, but the thing I did was took 7 spice merchants, 2 amulets, a couple of charms, and just kept cycling coppers and silvers from the supply to my deck to the trash every turn. And this worked because there was 2. It was a very fun build. There was, I think, no villages, no draw, which made it. Normally,
All right, so ThinkLauren has hit 8 here, and they are player 2. So buying province here is really good, I think, because if you buy province, your opponent buys province, you actually win the game. You'll be tied in points at 39 each, but if the game ends on player 1's turn and a tie, player 2 actually wins, because if you're tied but one person took more turns, the person who took fewer turns wins. It's only a true tie if it's tied at the end of player 2's turn.
The unfortunate thing here is that with exactly 8-point difference, you still win.
Yeah, so Dita definitely made the right play there. They could have played the rogue to guarantee 8, but we said 8 was losing. So they took the gamble and played a tragic hero, which is good because that has plus buy. And then what they needed to hit was at least 10. If they hit 10, then they can buy or not even 10. You need to hit 13. You need province plus duchy.
I'll complain, you're right.
All right.
Yeah, with the rogue play, you could gain farmland and then buy a farmland to trash a gold into province, which would have won.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like that idea, actually. I overlooked that. You were correct. That is a nice little play. I didn't see the farmland in the trash. Was there another farmland in the trash even after the one gained? Okay.
There was another farmland in the trash. I looked at the farmland in the trash, and I was like, oh, that only scores 8 points. But
that's good.
Yeah. And the match is tied up at 2.5 apiece.
Going into the final game. Yes, the last one.
The last melon.
For all of the marbles, except not really, because it's league.
Can we get a 3-3 ending?
Unlikely, but that would be nice.
Ooh, Crypt. Let's see.
Ooh, Crypt.
Yeah.
Jane else to say about this.
Crypt is really good here.
And there's Capital. And there's Guildhall. Crypt is really good here.
So let's talk about this kingdom. So we've got draw with Hunting Party, Paddock, Crypt, Diplomat potentially. You got trashing with Scrap. You can potentially get plus action on Diplomat, but there's not a really good way to activate that here. Diplomat's only going to give you plus. Diplomat's going to give you plus action only if you play it from a hand that's initially 4 cards or fewer, and you basically need a way to reduce your hand size first. So, like, theoretically, you could have like a state, a scrap, and a diplomat in hand, and then trash the estate with the scrap. But like that's not reliable. So what I'm looking to do is play without the requirement of having plus action. And we saw last game that was like a kingdom killing limitation. There was no good way to build an engine deck because of lack of plus action. Here, that's much less of a concern. The key interaction here that I will expect them not to pick up on because it's like really non-obvious. It's just kind of a thing you kind of got to know about the rules. But Crypt plus Capital is really strong. And that's because the way Capital is done is kind of weird. Capital gives you 6 coins and it gives you 6 debt. But it gives you the 6 coins up front and it gives you the 6 debt at the end of your turn. And technically the exact point it gives you debt is when you discard it from play. Now this means that if you never discard the capital from play, you never give the debt. So if instead of discarding capital from play, you set it aside with your crypt mat, you get the 6 coins, but you don't get the debt.
I feel like we have more important things to worry about with ditastrutt's first 3 turns being Humble, Crumble, and Small Castle.
Oh, goodness.
So...
Yeah, so, well, let me just explain real fast what I think the optimal kingdom is, just to get it out there, because I don't think we're going to see it. Like I was saying, it's something I don't think to pick up on. So, basically, you want some capitals, and you just want to have a crypt each turn to set the capitals aside on, and that's going to give you this super powerful treasure. And so I would want to thin my estates early with scrap, like scrapping the estates for horses, then add a crypt to my deck. Maybe the first 5, maybe second 5 after hunting party. Depends on exactly when I'm hitting 5. And I want to get a bunch of my coppers this side on crypt, and I want to start adding additional capitals and crypts for the most part. And hunting parties and maybe a paddock could fit in there as well. Plan scrap might be fine. I think I would open poacher scrap though.
Yeah.
All right.
Poacher is nice hitting 5.
Now you were asking about ditastrutt's opening, which is the old Humble Crumble. I don't like it. It's very rarely good. Very, very rarely good. The problem, of course, is these are victory cards. They're worth points. Points have value at the end of the game. We are in the beginning of the game. Opening with cards for the point value is just very rarely strategic.
Maybe there's keep. Maybe.
I will have you know, I did buy Humble Castle recently on turn 1 because keep was around, so it was worth 6 points, not just 1. And I was like, it was a weak kingdom anyway. And I got punished for it hard. My opponent's vampire trashed my Humble Castle, and it went to waste. And I deserve that because you shouldn't open Humble Castle. It was karma.
Yes, Crypt Capital here looks great. I mean, Crypt anyways is nice because Scrap doesn't do great trash and coppers.
Yeah, even without capital, I would get Crypt here.
Yeah. It's what was the Crypt article said, and also J-Nails for the last year, months.
The Crypt article got destroyed. I was so sad. I wrote a nice article for the wiki about how good Crypt is. That's not true. I didn't write how good Crypt is, which it's good. I just wrote how to play it, and then those wiki editors just destroyed it. I was so sad. Utterly gutted it.
Yeah, but anyways, everything Crypt needs is just semi-sporadic draw, which is the horse from paddock and hunting party, capital, obviously, and inventive scrap paddock. That would be fun to watch.
But yeah, going back to the Humble Crumble thing though, this is kind of similar to the problem of opening villages early. There's cards you want to have in your deck later, like villages in the former case, or points here. But if you open them early, you're really undermining your deck, which means you're not going to get there long term. The deck that gets the cards that accelerate your deck early is going to score way more points than the deck that scores points early. Here, there's a bunch of really good 5s. Crypt, Capital, Hunting Party, Paddock, all excellent 5s. Even Guildhall, honestly. Like, I don't think I'm getting Guildhall here, but like it wouldn't be bad. And so hitting 5 is like a key priority to me. Humble and Crumble are not getting you there. Humble Castle is like a copper. Crumbling Castle, it puts a silver in your deck, but it puts a 0-cost castle in your deck. So it's like, on average, 2 coppers. Opening with a bunch of coppers is not getting you a very reliable chance of hitting 5, as compared to scrapping a silver or something.
Well, Dita did hit 5 turn 3 and then bought Small Castle.
Don't infer. Okay, that's also a mistake. But like getting lucky and happening to draw your 5 coppers doesn't say anything. It's like, look, that was the hand that hit 5 because she didn't find either of her buys. So like imagine she drew Crumbling Castle there, for example. I don't like the Humble Crumble thing because it makes it harder to hit 5 than like a poacher does. And scrap is not bad at hitting 5 because you can draw with it. You can take like card coin if you think you're likely to hit 5. But also it's thinning your deck, which is independently good.
Yeah. I don't know how Ditastrutt can ever imagine themselves hitting 10 right now. It's kings, which seems important for their strategy.
Yeah, I think rushing castles is just like super duper not the play here. Again, there's strong cards here. A big difference, another big difference here between last kingdom and this kingdom is, again, we have a similar plus action limitation, but that hurts this kingdom a lot less because the key draw here is non-terminal, right? Hunting party is your draw, and it gets plus action. So you can play a bunch of hunting parties and draw a bunch of cards, even if you only have one action, to go around and no villages. Whereas last kingdom, all the draw, like Puka and Steward, was terminal. So you could never play multiple draw cards. And so you can often build an engine even with no plus action if you have good non-terminal draw, which we do have here. And that makes building here a lot more viable.
Also, Paddock at the beginning of the game is terminal, but as a draw card, it gives you horses, which really don't care about the terminality. Like, you're not going to draw things dead with Paddock. And then also now it's non-terminal with a pile being gone.
Yeah, Castle should not have been the first pile to empty. Often in a kingdom like that where you're building, but an engine, but you only have one action go around, you often want to think, like, what terminal action card am I playing with? Like, pick one. You draw your deck every turn, and you have a choice of terminal action cards to pick. Which one do you want? Scrapier can be non-terminal because it has plus action. But if you want to trash coppers with it, it's got to be terminal. You could choose Paddock, basically, or Inventor. Technically, I mean, Diplomat's terminal as well because you can't activate it. But like, I'd be picking between Paddock and Inventor, and I think I'd pick Paddock because Inventor gains 4s, but I don't want the 4s here as much as 5s. And so I think putting a single Paddock in your deck just to make use of the 1+ action you start with anyway every turn seems pretty good. You're correct, Complain. I'm not considering Opulent as my terminal. I have no intention of getting castles anytime soon.
It's so sad. She could have played Paddock before.
I said I like building here, not I like buildings.
But yeah. No, and that's
Crypt looks like a building. So Janos doesn't like Crypt confirmed. Scandal breaks out in the Dominion server.
Crypt isn't a building. Crypt is just like a location. Like a crypt itself is not a complete building. You have a crypt as a component of a larger building. Like you might have a crypt underneath a church.
That's fair. But still, I'm going to keep going with these clickbaiting titles. Top 10 cards J Nails hates that you have to see to believe. Number 4 will shock you. And number 5 will be buried beneath church.
All right, so we're discussing the art, it seems. What's the best art here? Paddock is okay.
I do love Hunting Party's art.
I don't as much. That's a fat horse. That's like a real fat horse. And then
the colors, though. I do love the color combination in the background.
The deer on the top right just looks like a dog with horns glued on.
You're not totally wrong, but I don't know. The neck is a bit too long for it to be a dog.
The castles, there's some really good castles and some really bad castles. Crumbling Castle is ugly as all get out. That's the worst castle. I mean, I guess kind of by design, but like it's still ugly. But then you got some nice castles. I think Opulent is really nice. Yeah, Opulent I think is my favorite castle. That's a beautiful castle.
I think I agree with you there. The castle's castle, it's off-center, which is annoying me to no end.
Yeah, Complain is right about the Duke art. If you look at the shirt and then the like chair thing on the right-hand side, they're like the same texture and style. So it might just be like a mermaid whose bottom part is being partly obscured by the art.
Duke is a merman, according to the art explanation command. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Paddock, I don't love the art. Just the horses, I don't love. Horses, it's simple art, but it's nice. I like it. It does what it needs to do. Capital, simple. I don't love it as much, just because I don't love whites and browns as much as I love just greens.
So I don't like the way these decks have gone. I think they greened too early, and now the decks are a little bit awkward. I do, however, like that they have a bunch of hunting parties. Hunting parties is just such a strong card. And so picking up a bunch of hunting parties is definitely a good move.
Although it's a little weaker for ditastrutt, though, with all those individual point cards. So
I mean, ThinkLauren's also got a bunch of distinct cards here. Although I guess fewer distinct cards than ThinkLauren does.
Dukes being at 6 without duchies being at like 3.
Ooh, here's a mistake. Here's a big mistake. Paddock is non-terminal now. So it starts out terminal, but then when a pile empties, it becomes non-terminal. Castles are empty. They could have played that Paddock for a free +2 coins, and then that would have gotten them double province. I think that they were thinking, oh, Paddock's terminal, I can't play it. But since castles have emptied, Paddock has not cost any actions.
And if another pile empties, then it becomes a village.
Yeah, I think Lauren doesn't realize about the Paddock effect and how that works.
I don't see another pile emptying here. Provinces are supposed to go.
No, that's probably not going to happen.
Also, if I'm buying a duchy on 7, I don't know why I'm not trashing a copper with scrap for free. That's ditastrutt there.
Take the free trash.
I think nearing the end of this match, just general notes, or at least general note I have, is just go for trashing early. That's, I think, if I had to choose one thing to make better from this match, I would just say go for trashing early. It's very important to just be able to see your good cards soon. Yeah,
so here I think the key thing I would be doing for trashing is scrap is good at getting rid of estates fast. It's weaker at getting rid of coppers, because for estates you can pick 2 nice benefits. Often like card and horse can be good because draw is good, but situationally you might take coin or action or silver. It's weaker at getting rid of coppers, and so we're looking at another way to get rid of coppers. You could consider like putting plan on something, like do plan scrap and then buy scrap and then trash a copper with the plan, and then use the scrap itself to trash your estates. I think my preferred solution is scrap to get rid of the estates and then buy a crypt and stash those coppers away on the crypt. And then once your deck's nice and thin, now it starts to do really good things. Here, that should be capital, but again, I think it's reasonable for them not to realize the like weird capital crypt interaction.
Daniels, I'm sure you're happy that ThinkLauren, the person with the crypt, is the person who's winning.
Oh yeah,
naturally. Finally, the person with the power cards is doing well in the game.
Yeah, I was playing Dingen today, and he beat me to the punch. Got crypt first, managed to gain and play it like turn 6, something absurdly early, and I was just like, yeah, GG, you got me. Resigned on the spot.
Classic turn 6 resign.
I mean, you get that crypt down. What do you do? It's game.
That would be useful, actually. Probably.
I've seen emptying provinces to activate animal fairs before, where you need the extra buy from animal fairs.
Emptying provinces?
Yeah, so like it's like the last turn. You need to power up your animal fairs to get extra plus buy, to get like enough of the estates or duchies to catch up. So you buy the last province, and then like buy a villa or something to return to your action phase, and then you play your animal fairs, and now you're getting extra plus buy from the animal fair, so you can buy enough duchies and estates. Animal fair is one of those cards that gives you more plus buy per empty pile, kind of the same way Paddock gives you more plus actions.
Kind of forgot about going back to your action phase for a second.
Yeah.
The sad thing here with the way these players have gone is Hunting Party doesn't do nicely with castles. Because normally, like, if you're only greening with province, Hunting Party is going to trip on one of the provinces and then it's going to skip all the other ones. But with castles, it's going to just stop on every single castle. And it does, I mean, I guess if that's your terminal here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, if you built first, I wouldn't be too worried about that, because you build early with Hunting Parties, you could add Paddocks later for extra draw, or you could just build to like Inventors and then like green all in one turn. But greening early is gonna, make that problem all much worse.
I agree with that duchy there. That was a smart move there.
I would be interested in that, DZ, if you compiled a list of the ways that the donate change would affect things, because I feel like there's some weird ones.
Paddock is now a village.
For context, for people who don't know, donate is going to change at some point in the near future. So that instead of happening between turns, it'll happen at the end of the turn you buy it. And for the most part, that's the same. But it's going to affect certain cards in weird ways.
Like possession.
Possession's not a real card. We don't talk about that one.
I think Lauren really. I'm not quite sure what the duchy split was, but I think Lauren really might just need to take a province here, or not, or just don't play her opulent.
Oh yeah, trashing the estate there instead of the silver.
Oh, never mind. The duchy split 4-4, so buying Duke is completely fine.
I think she should have trashed the silver though instead of the estate there. But yeah, small thing, but here points will matter.
I don't even know if I want to trash anything there.
Yeah,
double Duke. Oh yes, trashing silver does give you that card action buy. So yeah, never mind. You're right.
Yeah, that might actually have been, because I think had she not trashed the estate, that would have been 6 more from the.
As Dita here, I would gain a silver for the coffer and then buy a Duke.
I mean, you can buy Duke off of the estate gain also, but silver's probably better.
Sorry, just to clarify, I don't want the silver to afford Duke. You can afford Duke either way. I want the silver because hitting 8 and getting the last province looks nice, and a coffer is going to help me do that.
You don't really need the province though, because here you're going to take a Duke, and then you're pretty much won because that's the third pile.
Well, let me rephrase. If I want 2 Dukes, a coffer helps me afford 2 Dukes as well. I just really want a coffer.
That's a fair point. Again, playing the scrap before the paddock is just... I guess I just don't realize that it's a village now. But...
yeah, that paddock now gets +2 actions even.
Fancy.
But yeah, scrapping silver for horse silver. All right, good. They're at least playing the paddock.
Yeah, this game seems pretty over. Ditastrutt having taken revenge for their 6-0 defeat 2 seasons ago, now winning the match and providing a pretty good end to their season.
Yeah, so something to note here is we've seen a lot of these kingdoms, even the very strong ones. Like, this is a strong kingdom. You know, they're greening pretty early. They're like literally turn 1 and turn 2 here. Dita was greening, and you might have this conception of like, I don't have time to build. I got to score fast, or my opponent's going to beat me. These games are regularly lasting into the mid-20 turns, which is like honestly really long. You know, an average game I think is 13.5 turns.
It's 14.3.
14.3, basically pretty darn fast. I think my average game is 14.1. I recall Wandering Winder saying that recently. So basically, like a average kingdom should be lasting in the 14-15 range. These are strong kingdoms that should be lasting less than that. If you built more early, you would have the game would be lasting less time, not more. It's like building a bit more and then greening would cause you to end the game faster, and they're going too early for the points, and it's causing these games to drag out, leading to less points down the road.
Oh, this win's also just piling estates works too.
Yep, the estates are at 1.
I mean, them taking this long makes me assume they have not yet seen it. And
oh no, don't take Inventor.
So I mean, it's half VP. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's 2 piles empty. There's an estate pile at 1. If you buy the estate, you win immediately.
I mean, you've already won 2 turns ago. There, that works too.
Yeah, I'm not sure why ThinkLauren didn't resign there. There was no possible way to come back. There wasn't enough points left.
There's hope that Ditastrutt trashes green cards.
Ditastrutt versus ThinkLauren 2. The Revenge of Dita.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's the match. Thanks for commentating with me.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
See you around. Good night to people on the East Coast.